The protagonist tells a story about a time when he lived peacefully with his family. But sadly, he lost all those memories because the war tore everything apart. On a normal day in any city, a missile flies in and blows everything up in the next second, leaving only scraps of humanity behind. His first memory is of a city buried in ash and filled with the stench of smoke. The boy spots a woman sitting across the street with a pale, defeated face, just staring blankly into the air. Yet those memories stay foggy with the ghost of smiling faces and the solid shoulders he used to lean on. Even with all the trouble, the picture of loving parents burned so bright in his mind that it stayed clear until they finally showed up, rising straight out of human despair. People named these powerful creatures gods. The great divinity speaks, calling humans its little lambs. The gods order us to worship them as our new rulers who will lead us to a fresh world. Civilization will rise again under the gaze of the gods. Everyone looking for salvation brings their friend's soul to the holy place. 15 years later, the man holding the family photo watches as a stranger sadly says they've finally arrived and asks the boy to come with him. The gods gave back to us the years of work men spent building, all done in just a few days. This is the holy place where the golden god Barbaric lives. A mysterious creature steps forward to greet the new arrivals. While the creature asks the visitors if they are qualified, the hero replies that entering the sanctuary is a dream for everyone. But there are only two ways to make it happen. One way is to make a sacrifice, and that is precisely what the man does. The other path is to become a sacrifice, as the other men grab the protagonist while the priest ushers the slave trader inside. Our hero thinks he's running out of time, but he doesn't care since he isn't heading for the sanctuary. He's just trying to catch the gods so he can finally talk to his lost family again. They spoke of mercy, love, salvation, justice, and kindness, which is exactly why the hero wants to meet every god in this world before casting them one by one into hell. Elsewhere in the city, that same man strolls down the streets until he spots a bar and walks right in. As the bartender mixes a drink for a stranger asking for something good, he notices the newcomer is new to the golden god city and marvels at how everything there is made of gold. A warm drink is poured into a golden cup as a welcome. The man questions if the god Barbaric can make gold, but the bartender shakes his head, saying that's just a silly mistake outsiders always make. In truth, the divinity can turn anything from water to stone into gold, and even outsiders can get their share from Barbaric. A sacrifice is required, but if it is good enough, the gold reward will be huge. If that fails, the gold will still appear, just not in such great quantities. The man asks what makes the god give more or less reward, and the bartender lightly replies that it comes down to Barbaric's hobby of collecting art. Here is the story of object number 216, a painting that shows a man dancing with pure rage. Here is another art piece, number 1087, showing a child singing in a simple setting. Barbaric jumps in with excitement, asking if those statues are totally awesome. With ropes binding him to the chair, the protagonist stays completely quiet. The god asks once more if the boy liked them, but Barbaric answers by dropping the statues and watching them shatter on the floor, since he knows the answer just by the boy's expression and shares his own dislike for them. They are done with old men and children, while his followers only ever bring them easy targets. It has been ages since Barbaric saw a man as strong as our hero, so the god points to an empty spot on the shelf, right where other grown men belong. Barbaric is so thrilled about finishing his collection that he's shaking all over. But the god feels a strange chill in his heart. He keeps glancing at something on the shelf that's really bothering him. Barbaric admits he should have left 2 spots empty. Every piece shows a man who has been hurt. It's common for a hunted person to get hurt, but no one ever wants to be a sacrifice, especially not one as perfect as the protagonist like Barbaric. The god of gold realizes the hero is with the man who brought him as a sacrifice. The man on the radio tells the hero that God can turn anything into gold. Barbaric spots a bug in his offering's ear, picks up the device, and scoffs that while he heard non-believers cause trouble, he never imagined one would dare show up before God. He smashes the transmitter into tiny pieces. Barbaric chuckles, thinking it's hilarious how they got so confident after only beating a few little minions. The god challenges the hero. With a simple touch, his skin turned to gold as the divinity challenged him to prove his worth. But he had to rush because in just 5 minutes, our hero would freeze into a statue. Our hero wonders if trapping a body in gold will slowly steal its soul. Barbaric admits that is exactly what he does, yet the hero has no soul and can check whenever he wants, which makes the god of gold suspicious that the hero is plotting something. Barbaric gives the boy a gentle scratch on his forehead with his finger, and the god grows confused about where his own spirit has gone. The protagonist wonders if God is frustrated now that his soul is gone. It was sold, though let's be precise about it. The boy stands there, facing a monster big as a mountain. To bring down the gods, he turned into the one who welcomed every demon. The evil creatures dive right through his forehead and vanish into nothingness. Bar-Eric is completely lost and doesn't know what Bar-Eric means by void. The god of gold has never heard of such a thing. Most of all, we need to figure out how to handle a person who has lost their soul. Bar-Eric isn't going to stay quiet. He's got his answer ready. The boy didn't care at all about the things he collected. Right after, the sky's spirit smashes the hero's face into the dirt with a hard punch. Plus, daring to defeat the gods is the ultimate sin. Bar-Eric unleashes his power and blasts the boy. God told the broken boy that no one can ever break a divine being. Bar-Eric guessed the boy was full of tricks, so he had to be working for another powerful being. The god tells his high priest to find out who the boy serves. Just as Bar-Eric shouts for his men to chase down the traitor who brought the sacrifice, he fails to notice the hero rising from the floor. Then the boy crept up from behind and whispered the god's words, saying that nothing could ever stop a divine being. Maybe they should put that theory to the test then. Right then, our hero calls out to Pavaka, a fiery creature made of living flames. Then fire devours Bar-Eric's arm and melts away half of his golden face. The god tells his soldiers to charge at our hero. Braz is the demon everyone is fearing right now. One moment, every soldier was standing tall, and the next they were all cut into pieces. Pavaka deals a crushing blow while Braz inflicts a massive wound. Paying the heavy cost of demon power, our hero pushes through the pain, while the enraged Bar-Eric screams at the sheer nerve of a human to challenge him. The god of gold finally treats the boy with respect, and, as predicted, the hero claims he knows weak demons can't beat him. With no other option, he summons the mighty demon lords. With this, he will finally show us what hell looks like. As the man at the bar worries about his partner, he watches over the fallen soldiers. With heavy, sleepy eyes, he watches his father, mother, and brother standing right there, only to jolt awake and realize the heartbreaking truth that they're gone forever. Our hero clutches his father's shirt in anger, but a stranger steps up to say that in this world, losing someone you love is common as people hunt their own kind to get into the sanctuaries. Even as people pray to the gods, they live through a living hell. The man honestly wonders if the world might ever change. But the question left the boy so angry he could barely hold back. He refuses to make even a single change, wishing instead for everything to crumble down to nothing. The man chuckles, confirming the answer is right and that nothing can ever be changed. With everything smashed down to the ground, a man steps forward and introduces himself as Walter, the leader of the Eastern Nonbelievers. Walter tells the child that he found a magical item strong enough to kill the gods, which brought him to this moment. So he hands the weapon to the boy, who agrees to become a tool of the void. Bar-Eric didn't think anything special about humans using a demon's power. To the god, the weapon's origin doesn't matter, because even though you are mortal, you have become immortal. Bar-Eric rises in a golden giant form to declare that within his sanctuary, he holds all power and answers to no one. Our hero cheers because his rival is finally fighting back. The golden giant roars to life and readies a strike. Everyone has to bring down the power that holds us back. A fresh burst of golden light strikes right where the hero stands. Bar-Eric mocks his challenger, saying he must suffer forever. But then our hero calls Braz back and cuts the golden god in half. But with that, the boy has reached his limit. Yet Bar-Eric's voice warns that the unbeliever will keep resisting all the way to the very end. God is going to see how many times the hero can come back to life. As Bar-Eric vows to smash our hero, the giant's shape begins to shift once more. As the golden giant gains new power, he shatters everything around him in a brilliant burst of golden light. One of the priests claims that the god is taking things too far. Before long, the temple began to crumble. When the city shakes, the people look around, wondering if Bar-Eric is to blame. As one of the gold god's followers lay out cold, a foot stepped forward and snatched away his golden mask. The bartender asks the man what he is up to with Bar-Eric's followers. The bar owner decides that his god is angry because of the customer and that the man himself is not a believer. Walter claims that only moments ago, the bartender was being super nice to him, even though he, like everyone else in the city, was willing to give up his friends just to win the god's favor. As the bartender starts turning into gold, the leader of the non-believers keeps saying that these divine beings don't see people as human. To the gods, we are just fleeting sparks of energy. Walter leaves the man behind and walks away, where the leader of the non-believers is impressed by how much stronger Bar-Eric is than he thought. It seems the divine being intends to swallow the over 15,000 souls of his followers. Through the smoke far away, someone appears to be coming our way. The bike skidded to a halt, revealing Katie, the girl who rushed in to save her leader. The captain shouts at the girl for being crazy to show up, but she shouts back that he is just as crazy. Katie hasn't heard from her boss in 5 years until the old man suddenly appears to announce he's going to war against Barbaric, prompting Walter, who dislikes being called old, to assure her he's fully prepared for whatever comes his way. She asks if he has the weapon needed to defeat the gods. The leader says that what he received was far better than he hoped. Walter knew right away that the boy named Dale was the one. Those eyes were exactly what the artifact needed. Heavy hearts and shaking hands can't hide the fear and hate that make people feel hopeless and hurt. Even worse, he was burning with a desperate need for revenge. But anyone wanting to use the artifact must first plant it deep inside their heart. The boy didn't waste a single second doubting you. That's how Dale chose to walk alongside death for 5 years without his body ever falling apart. Walter could only guess the boy's soul had suffered in hell, until Dale suddenly plunged down into it and came back from the dead. Caddy freezes at the thought of someone coming back to life, while Walter reveals that the boy actually made a deal with the void. Dale didn't just sell his soul. By chasing the power to defeat the gods, he found something special he had been waiting for, standing calmly before the golden giant's rush. By drinking the power of every soul it had swallowed. It was enough, so Caddy wondered what this special power could be. Walter sees that the unstoppable power of Udale, strong enough to topple even the gods, is about to awaken. Barbaric stands dumbfounded, unable to speak at the sight before him. With a crown of fire, a being is lifted into the sky by a red hand, fulfilling the promise of the god of gold so that the protagonist can finally hunt, and Dale eagerly asks for the power of the being he has summoned. Ag, the fiery king who rules over hell's unfairness, burns with rage. This is the real power Dale carried all the way from the underworld. With the crown of flames now upon him, the hero's body changes. Holding the title means you get to take control of the bodies of the Dark Lords. Dale transforms into his brand new shape. Now that he has all that strength, the demon roars with joy. Then the creature lunges forward to strike. It doesn't stop laughing for even a single second. The tiny creature leaps straight at the giant golden figure without any fear. Barrett juts his enormous hand forward, and suddenly an eye appears right in his palm. He manages to catch the demon, but the fiery rage of hell bursts through his giant hand. The whole arm keeps getting burned by hellfire. This beast can never be stopped or beaten. As the demon reaches for Bararic's face, he leaps away. Dale screams for his flesh to turn to ash, and a giant hand of fire slams down, crushing the golden god as easily as a fly. Bararic screams in agony as the heat melts him, while the divine being begs to be spared. He couldn't take the terrible pain of the burning fire anymore, so he begged the demon to stop it. Walter beams with pride at the mission's success, while his partner offers barely a word. Cad wonders if the god they fought was truly gone for good. The leader says this is only the start. A figure steps out of the thick smoke and keeps walking. The protagonist says he feels inspired and then hands over a finger that once came from inside Bararic's body. Walter realizes this strange thing is likely an artifact from a different place like the Void, suggesting that even mighty gods like Dale get their power from a realm far beyond ours. The hero nods in agreement, but soon his strength starts to fade. Then the boy gives in to his tiredness and falls to the ground. Caddy wonders if the boy has truly died, but the leader replies that he's just sleeping for a few days. Deep inside the great central sanctuary, a crowd of people makes its way toward the temple. The leader of the faithful holds a scroll. Standing at the gates, the man shouts that he's been called to enter the holy place. Everyone bends down to honor the 3 gods, the child, the man, and the elder. The one in the middle shouts that the god of gold has died, but the elder on the left says it was always destined to happen, so there's no need to fear and we should just keep going with our plan. Then the tiny one, who looks like a child, orders them to fetch the last thing needed to welcome the true god back. The thing that's gone is the relic of the void. Just as commanded, the ships set sail on their mission. A truck rolls across the desert, hauling the non-believers along with it. Dale stays fast asleep, still caught in the quiet after the battle. Katie stares at the old relic, her eyes full of curiosity. She turns to her captain and says that none of this story makes any sense at all. The old object she holds is likely what gave Bararic strength from other worlds. Walter agrees she's right, but she still feels something is wrong. She couldn't understand how her captain could accept something so strange so calmly. She knew that the man she trusted would never just take things at face value, so she suspected he was hiding something from her. Walter then says it's time to explain why he now believes the impossible is true. Before the First War, he ran the research lab at the giant company called East. Inside the lab sat a strange forbidden zone that even the boss couldn't enter, but one day Walter found the door open and, driven by curiosity, stepped inside. Even he couldn't make sense of the sight inside. In a weird room with blank walls covered in random drawings, a printer in the middle kept churning out papers on its own. But the strangest thing was that those papers were just stories about make-believe worlds. Since Walter couldn't read the papers, he copied every word onto his phone. Just as he was ready to go, the printer suddenly started churning out pages all over again. This time, the answer was written in numbers. That's when Walter heard strange noises outside. The leader grabbed the paper with the numbers, shoved it into his pocket, and bolted out the door. Walter holds up his phone to reveal the documents inside. Back then, he mistook the writing for a novel, but now he finally recognizes it. It wasn't just a story, but a true prediction of what was to come. The final war, the gods' arrival, the empty void, and the demons all happened exactly as the prophecy predicted, without a single error. Caddy then realizes she already knows what those numbers mean. They held the coordinates and date for when he'd find the relic in that mysterious place, with the gods tied to the prophecy because of them, and only Walter could locate the relic and its bearer. Cuddy warns that the prophecy ends with Barrick's death, leaving the leader with no idea what will happen next. Out of nowhere, something slammed into the truck. An angelic being used his hands to bring the vehicle to a halt. The being smiles down at the passengers. Walter is so tired, he's nearly falling asleep while driving. Caddy was badly hurt in the crash, and the truck is now trapped by ships and angels, with one angelic soldier excited because he found a relic. Then he shows Sir Lou that they've finally found what they were searching for. The squad leader tells the soldier that the lords only want the relic in the heart, so he can throw away everything else, but Sir Lou hasn't even finished speaking when the angel punches him hard in the face. Walter tells Caddy to keep Dale safe. Suddenly, the angel's arm holding the boy bursts apart. The girl finds it odd that her boss is so worried about guarding someone who can't even die. The leader explains that Dale can't be brought back until he wakes up. Suddenly, a strange object snaps around Walter's neck. Sir Lou grabs the man who tried to hurt him and hurls him high into the air. Suddenly, the angel punches him so hard he crashes down to the ground. But right after that, Sir Lou suddenly explodes from the shot. Caddy rushes to save her captain, but before she can reach him, two strong hands snatch both of them up into the air. Another angel is furious that two people who don't believe in her have the nerve to lift a hand against her leader. To him, it felt like a huge insult, because Caddy didn't know who these strangers were, only that their leader claimed they came from the central sanctuary. There is no way they can stand against these opponents who have the power of a lesser god. Sir Lou chuckles at the idea that anyone could know them, and the angel tells his men to take care of the humans while he deals with his own target. Soon after, the sky god pushes its way into the hero's chest to snatch the relic, leaving the friends standing there in total shock. Dale's body crumbles away into dust, fading like ashes in the wind. Sir Lou shouts that he's done his job and heading back, but the middle god says his troops found the relic and something feels off, while the other god rolls his eyes and calls him a worrywart for acting like a mortal. But the other god feels a chill of dread, for now the path ahead has vanished and there is no future left to see. An eye opens in the empty dark for the childlike god, and he knows something is messing everything up. The warning about the master of the void rang out, and just as those words were spoken, a being dropped down from the sky. Arms shoot out all over the angel holding the heart, until Sir Lou vanishes completely. The Holy Ones claim the hero is a threat, proving that neither gods nor demons are truly mysterious. A dark shadow steps closer to the angels. The gods themselves are swallowed by the endless void. Caddy looks to the captain and asks if the creature is on their team. Walter shouts that this is the worst thing that could ever happen. Dale warns that a demon king might take control of his body, so the protagonist vows that if that happens, he will destroy his own heart to stop it. This creature must never enter the world, for if it does, everything will end. The hero has become a nightmare, leaving one angel speechless over Sir Lou's destruction and the lack of a prophecy to explain this impossible enemy, while the other scolds his friend for worrying too much. These elite guards from the central temple are so strong that no enemy could ever defeat them. Even though he spoke those words, the angel felt fear gripping his entire body. Before he even knew it, the Celestial admitted he felt like throwing up. He orders his partners to strike together with all their might, creating a blast as bright as 1,000 suns that no god could survive, before commanding the angels to rush forward and cleanse their enemy. As the ships ready their light beam and a host of angels charge forward to unleash a blinding explosion that instantly turns everything to ash, the towering angel asks if it worked, only to be told to quiet down by his partner. With a casual air as if nothing happened, the hero sits cross-legged in the void, waiting for the show to end while the new boss blames his partner for the loss, even as the toughest warriors wonder why their enemy isn't attacking. Katty is just as puzzled by everything going on, while Walter offers an apology to the girl. He missed his chance to shatter Dale's heart, and now the girl wonders what strange thing they are up against. The leader warned Dale that the moment he returned to Earth, something deep inside him would crave a rebirth on our homeworld. Even the devil fears this creature so much that he calls it a disaster. It eats anything in its path. Nothing that goes into its stomach ever comes out, because inside is the very bottom of hell and an endless abyss, a place of pure and infinite nothingness. Katty shouts that they're free, and Walter realizes they're now lost in the void. Dale steps forward, declaring that this is the end, and there is nothing left to do. She asks if he's still alive, and he replies that since they are in the world beyond death, he isn't truly living anymore. But at least they aren't alone, because only angelic servants remain to guard the void, meaning everything hasn't been swallowed yet. Even the sky gods don't know why the world plunged into darkness, but the leader is certain his target is still breathing. The angel leader feels insulted that people who do not believe in him are daring to stand against him. The glowing spirit squeezes every bit of his strength into his open palm. Then he leaps into the empty space. Walter shouts for everyone to run, because things look scary, but Dale says just watch what happens. As the angel struggles to hold its own, the main character warns that wielding such holy strength here will bring terrible results, since the void is also known as the graveyard of demons in hell. Katty wonders if they are in danger too, but Dale reassures her that they are safe because a demon king now lives inside him. Agi is the flame king who rests on fire, while Malik is the bug that eats dead flesh and rules over twisted souls. Sol and Mang is the wandering seeker of knowledge, while Miley is the living taboo. Iroh is the invisible blade that slices through the stars, and Noxus and others are lost within the shadows of the glowing mist. Even though they were eaten by the void and are now just spirits, these ghosts are strong enough to hunt gods, and Walter wonders if the demon standing before him is the king who ruled hell. Katty gasped in shock as he watched the gods' elite get wiped out. The angels are actually being eaten by the demons. Katty finally understands that the protagonist must have been here before, since he managed to escape once. Even though Dale warns that no one can leave this empty place again without the master of reality giving permission. Our hero got away last time because he made a deal with the Lord of the Void, promising to feed the hungry demons his power. When Dale opened his eyes, he discovered he could draw strength straight from the demons of hell. But the Lord of the Void could also use his own body, which was the real reason he wanted to eat the entire world. Ultimately, the only escape from this realm requires the master's permission. But since the hero's body is controlled, there is no reason for him to let them go, meaning there is no way out. Yet Walter refuses to simply watch the entire world be consumed. Dale then wonders what they should do, since even praying isn't an option. The leader of the non-believers gets furious, but Katty jumps in just as the fight is about to spiral out of control, reminding everyone that while the world is falling apart, this isn't the time for more violence. Katty leans in to see if you've made a deal with the Void. Since that's true, they must create a new offer they can't refuse. But Dale insists it's impossible, while the girl refuses to quit and presses him to explain what power the Lord of the Void will steal by swallowing the world. The protagonist is lost and unsure of her path, but Katty insists that a god who hasn't shown up yet is still out there. There's a mighty god waiting to come down to Earth. Walter asks the girl if she's going to watch the descent of God. Katty says they must buy time because there's no other choice, and though his captain disagrees, saving Earth from destruction is the only thing that matters right now. Dale decides it's worth giving it a shot. She said there was no other way out. The hero presses his thumb right against his heart. As the finger pushes into his chest, no blood comes out, only a dark shadow. Dale pulls black ink from inside himself to write strange symbols, then lets a drop fall to the ground. The black drop changes shape, and a huge shadow climbs up. You could clearly see worry on Walter and Kat's faces. Now the heroes stand tiny against a massive demon surrounded by gigantic monsters. Then the master of the empty space steps up to them. Dale talks in a strange, alien tongue. The strongest demon answers back in the same fiery language. Katty asks her captain if he understands any of the words, but he can't make out a single thing either. The girl asks our hero if everything went well. A black hand reaches out and points at one of the humans. From the ground beneath Cuddy and Walter, Shadows rise up to swallow them whole. And while Walter shouts for help, the girl says she feels nothing before the darkness completely consumes them. They both wake up safe and sound in the middle of a desert. Walter searches for Dale, but it is the girl who actually finds him. The empty darkness pulled back and handed the hero's body back to him. Now, they must wait to see what happens before heading back to the non-believers' base in the Eastern Branch. 2 guards complain that the whole group is falling apart, with Cuddy already running away like the leader did. For one of those men, Walter's tale of wandering the world with a weapon meant to kill the gods caused half the group to quit. Suddenly, both guards spot something coming their way. A shadow moving through the rain creeps toward the base, and the guard grabs his binoculars to spot who is approaching. They realize it is Captain Walter. With that, the announcement rings out that the captain has returned and the gates are now swinging wide open. Caddy quickly realizes the air around her feels cold and unwelcoming. Simon stands there and takes them, never hiding the big surprise on his face. Walter says his friend hasn't changed a bit, not even after all these years. Suddenly, every man points his weapon right at the heroes. Simon says this is just the usual way of doing things because, in recent years, many double agents have slipped in among the believers. Plus, a few things have shifted since the captain departed. A machine was built to sniff out anyone who doesn't believe, and if they fail the test, they are put to death right away. Kate can't believe the captain is being treated so badly, so Simon tells the girl to calm down. Walter chuckles at the twist that they're now executing people instead of kicking them out, and he can't help but ask if the shareholders really agreed to this, and who's in charge now. Simon refuses to share any more details until the old leader takes the test, leaving Caddy growing increasingly nervous by the minute. But Walter refuses to take the test because it would mean killing 2 believers, a fate that makes them no different from those hiding in the sanctuary. The real ones who need to be put to death are the gods. Simon says that nobody there thinks a god can ever be killed. Caddy admits she saw a god get beaten right in front of her own eyes. Simon is confused by what the girl is saying. Walter slams the protagonist to the ground and declares that he is the weapon destined to bring down the gods. But to Simon, none of their words make sense, because all he can see is just a boy. Since everyone doubts the captain's story, he decides to take the boy to the lab to prove it. Walter has to drain the hero's blood, which is why the leader rushed back to the base. Simon questions why he should agree to it. Then Walter asks him to think about why he'd want to come back after so much time. The ability to slay gods isn't just a power the boys hold. With Dale's blood in their veins, anyone can borrow the demon's power for a single hour, leaving both Simon and Caddy stunned by this dangerous secret. Walter tells the man to tell the elders and other base leaders that the final plan has started and the God Hunter unit is ready. Everything is ready and the plan is finally set. Dale warns that the real God will come down to Earth, and the protagonist must hunt him down and give his own power as a sacrifice. The Lord of the Void warns our hero that he's started to think he's the best at everything. He is absolutely sure that a handful of demons can give him the strength to defeat the true God. Bale starts to believe the negotiation has fallen apart. The Lord of the Void says the world won't fall yet, but the part of him inside the protagonist means our 2 cities are all that will survive. Our hero realizes the demon is still too weak to destroy the world. Dale then asks the Void Lord why he wants to show up on Earth. Then the beast gestures toward exactly what it desires. A dark hand shrinks the 2 humans with Dale, for the Void wants to keep them close as useful tools for the hero. The demon is buying itself time before its end comes. The boy, knowing nothing, asks if the creature is saving them, but the demon replies that just as Dale needs him, the Void needs the boy just as much. The hero will be the pawn that brings the Void into the world. After the boy finally figures out his part in the game, the demon whispers a tale older than time itself about a first wish and a world split into 2 halves. In a world split into 3 layers with 6 distinct realms, 2 powerful forces with their own secret agendas were at play. The Endless One, who hunts for the forever of everything and craves its total destruction, is the Void. For ages, the spirits born in this world were pulled toward these 2 powers, giving rise to 2 new beings living in the realms above and below. And because of humans, the true God and the Void were born. Born from a human soul. This is the true purpose of Dale's people, for the Void is a final place where every living thing will be destroyed. This is the war that will end the world, so Dale must win with the demons guiding him, and he must fight however he can while pretending to be Walter to start the plan. Then Dale's face becomes the vessel for his power, and finally Caddy will be the spark that ignites his will. This whole world has to break and fall into the endless dark. Our hero shrugs and says he doesn't care about the gods fighting. The only thing he doesn't get is why both all of humanity and his own family have to suffer the consequences. To our hero, the demon is a traitor for forcing humans into this endless battle. The guardians of the Void Lord and Wham told Dale not to let his horns show when their lord was around. Grasping the hands of the two giants, the protagonist urges them to stay out of this. Dale asks once more why people must be used instead of the demons who are already fighting their own battles. And the truth is, only human souls are allowed to travel between the realms. In the end, the Lord of the Void promises that the hero's hunger for revenge will finally be satisfied. Then the demon steps up to our hero. He tells the boy face to face that he can get his family back. Just then, the horns shrank back to their normal size. The demon claims that Dale saw the power of gold with his own eyes. Some souls get stuck, crying out forever as a never-ending food source for a god. This is eternity's real shape, its deepest want, and the source of its strength. The Lord warns that even the souls of the protagonist's family are still caught within the enemy's grip. Dale asks what the demon means, and then the Lord promises to add a new rule to their deal. The hunt for the gods is finished, and our hero's revenge is done. But the final words are too blurry to read. Dale can't make a thing out of the words as the shadows wrap around him. A voice calls out as the protagonist moves, his heart finally beating again before his eyes flutter open. Then our hero wakes up right away, only to find Dale sitting in a chair hooked up to monitors. Simon is shocked that the boy has come back to life, realizing Walter was right, so he nervously asks who this stranger is and where he came from. Simon apologizes to the living weapon, though he's just trying to test the protagonist. As the robot reveals that everyone wants to witness the boy's power firsthand, Dale, convinced the hero can handle even a tiny machine, leaps forward before Simon can finish speaking. The boy asks to change, and his hands turn black. Then he hits the fighting machine so hard that it falls apart. Dale stands alone without trying. With nerves shaking like leaves, our hero demands to know who this thief is who snatched him, only to leap right in front of Simon, who begs him to stay calm. Dale wants to know which team the man has picked. Most of all, he is desperate to find out if he has stumbled into a holy place protected by God. A voice whispers that he has reached the eastern edge of the land where the God-haters live. He reaches out his hand and confirms that Dale is strong, just as Walter claimed. She says her name is Hannah and that she is the leader of the unbelievers' base. She beams with a bright smile and tells him that she is thrilled to finally meet him. Hannah runs through the woods with another person, but they fall behind and tumble to the ground. Hannah frantically pleads with her sister, who can't walk, to stand up before they get caught. Using the last of her strength, the sister grabs Hannah's attention and tells her what she's about to say. She tells the little girl to run as far away from the sanctuary as she can. Before she could take another step, the girl was suddenly lifted into the air. No matter what a human tries to do, a god is too powerful to stop. To them, humans are just insects, so even killing the gods who fight them is pointless. Even the leader of the disbelievers is caught in these same thoughts. But then she realizes just how far Dale is willing to go. It felt like magic as the impossible unfolded right before her eyes. People are no longer helpless anymore. Hannah rushes to meet the man who made her happy, the person who built a future everyone else had said was impossible. Hannah steps up again as the leader of a secret group of people who have found freedom from the gods. Dale takes her hand and asks where Old Man Walter is. The base leader ignores the question and says the hole in the wall will take time to fix, but she's glad the protagonist isn't afraid to speak their mind. Dale pushes again, demanding to know where Walter is hiding. Hannah mentions that her senior is a bit busy, but she did send a message. Don't take the photo with you, or it will burn, so leave it safe at the base. Hannah tells Dale that this is now his home, so he must look after the things he treasures. The leader wonders if that's enough proof for our hero to trust them, but there's just one small, not-so-nice room left that should fit one person. So Hannah tells the boy to shower and change while something suddenly grabs her attention. She's annoyed that hair covers the hero's face, so she offers to trim it while the sink already holds a pile of cut strands. Now changed into his new hero outfit, Dale finds it snug, but Hannah assures him that true hero gear is always meant to fit tight. She grabs his hand to lead him to a new place. The protagonist sees everything. As they move through the base, everyone stops to stare at the human weapon. No one tries to hide their curiosity. Dale questions Hannah to see if everyone already knows about him. The leader explains that everyone was watching him battle the robot on the giant screen because they needed to see what a weapon powerful enough to defeat the gods can do. Everyone had forgotten what it felt like until a leader mentioned the vague gift our hero brought to the base. It's hard to put into words, but you can feel it for sure. An outstretched hand reaches toward little Hannah. Walter knows the girl has lost someone dear to her by the way she looks. Hope is the name they call this feeling, even as Dale whispers it to himself. Then he stares down at his own hands. The hero wonders if he is truly Hope, but Dale knows the dark fate awaiting those who serve the void. One day, this demon will eat the whole world. The hero knows he can't call these powers hope. Hannah reminds us that when you hold great power, you must also bear a heavy responsibility. She knows the hero made a deal with the dark. The leader tells us her boss said the world was almost destroyed. Hannah leans back and tells the protagonist not to worry, promising this will never happen again. The leader claims they dropped a bomb right inside his heart. She tells him not to worry, promising that if anything goes wrong, she will blow him up so quietly that not a single trace will be left behind. And if the first attempt doesn't work, other signals are ready to step in. So Dale calls her off right away, since he understands the situation. Hannah presses the button to step into the next room. The leader tells the protagonist to leave the future for later and focus on hunting the gods right now. Within a week, the God Hunter squad will finally launch their very first official mission. Dale stares in shock, unable to believe his eyes at what he's seeing. Walter stands inside the room. The old man feels joy seeing the boy awake with fresh hair, yet he can barely recognize the hero, so Dale immediately asks for an explanation of what he is witnessing. What crazy scheme are they hatching with that weird thing in the tank? Walter says this creature is living tissue built from the hero's own blood. An old man found out that putting Dale's blood inside someone grants them amazing superpowers. But they can't ever tap into the dark powers of demons. To tap into hell's dark power, they must first bring a demon under their control. But we can only do that by pulling the special liquid and living cells right out of our hero's blood. When the soldier gives the shot and shouts for the demon, an artificial creature will appear. The soldiers who take this shot will join the God Hunters unit. But before they can start, they face huge problems like the fact that taming a demon is far too hard for anyone to do alone, which is why Hannah pulls out a report she found. From a group of 140 hopefuls, only 100 made it to the next step of getting their blood injected. Then you inject the serum, shout the demon's name, and it appears. In theory, taking down a demon is easy. Just beat it, but the path is so bloody that out of 140 brave souls who tried, only one survived with a victory while the other 139 were left broken or dead. Katarina Basic, also known as Kanan Katti, is the first soldier in the God Hunters unit. The scientists say everything is under control. Katie says she's ready to get training going right away and keep it up all day. Hugh leads the spies who hide in the enemy's secret camp. The informant asks the girl why they're training today, and she says it's just to punch some demons. Then Q reveals that today's training is going to be a bit different than usual. The demons she fought before were weak, but the ones ahead will be a step above. Captain Walter said that a low-level demon is like a squad of soldiers, so a mid-level one is like a whole battalion. Kay has gotten ready for every twist and turn, even the one that might mean she doesn't make it this time. But Kati knows she won't lose this time because if she did, it would have happened long ago. So she injects the serum into her blood and tells Hugh to watch his little sister fight without any control. With a cry of pain, the medicine was finally pushed into the vein. She asks him if he's ready to call Demon Number 8, whose powers we still don't know. Kati tells her brother to hush and stop talking about resonance. Right after she calls Palak, odd things begin to happen. Kati turns to Hugh and asks if everything is okay, but he whispers that something strange is going on because only one soul should be reacting. It seems like I finally understand what a whole battalion of demons is capable of. A dozen monsters are called forth to battle. Kati pulls out his knife to fight. Desperate for a way out, she decides to cut them all down just as the creatures leap on her. Then Kati instantly calls for Sai, but the cursed blood takes over her eyes before she can even finish. Suddenly, 100 creepy eyes pop into existence out of nowhere. Just as a monster's claws reach for her, Kati sees them coming and sweeps through the horde like a sudden gust of wind. High in the air, the soldier yanks a rope with a hook to swing up and escape the horde of monsters below. Kati realizes that if this keeps going, the fight will never stop. She knows that wielding 2 demon powers at once will nearly break her body, but she has no choice but to push through. With that, she calls Anarch to her side. Then Kati leaps back into the fray, ready to use Anarch's power to boost his strength and take on any number of foes. Kati grips her blade with both hands and slices through dozens of enemies in half with just a few quick moves. In a flash, the army of creatures was defeated. Only the monster's boss is left on the list, and he must be defeated now. She tells Kati to run away now that they have all the data they need, but just like she warned, the soldier refuses to leave because she doesn't care about the information. The demon lunges at her, but barely misses his mark. The beast zoomed past her, moving so fast it might be more than she can handle. Just as quickly, the demon springs in front of her and snatches Caddy up. Now, it was the girl who had no other choice but to try. Caddy recalls how Walter once said that demons give their power based on how much pain the person using it feels. But everyone has a breaking point for pain, and for someone like her, she can only handle 2 powers at once. Or else, you face death or get snatched away by the creatures. Even so, Caddy calls for a fight. Just as it happens, she suddenly feels sick. Then, someone else calls Braz, and the demon gets sliced into pieces just as Dale grabs Caddy at the last second. The protagonist grabs the girl's mouth and asks if she's crazy, and Dale shouts that she's losing her mind from the pain. Walter decides that Caddy will join our hero as a partner, noting that even though she is new to this, she has a tough heart and a real fighting spirit. But judging by how they're doing, they still have a lot of work to do to learn how to play together. Dale lay on his bed, staring at the photo. The Lord of the Void promises to take the protagonist, his family, and their soul to a place of freedom. A knock on the door wakes the hero, who answers to see who is there. Dale walks to the door and finds a scientist named Q waiting there, who says he is the base's informant. He just popped by to glance at Dale's data. While the boys slept, the folks at the base gathered every piece of information they could about him. And though he wasn't supposed to see this, Hugh showed up just to check out something really strange. The scientist claims Dale arrived from the east after his family was sacrificed in a holy ritual. But this strange tale doesn't fit because there are no such safe havens where our hero came from. Now that we are in the east, a trio of travelers is on a quest. Caddy can't see why they had to travel all this way just to look for a safe place, since there are probably plenty of other reasons for what went wrong. Dale insists that a god definitely lives in this region, even if you can't prove it exists. He is certain that a strange god with a black halo lives in the place where his family died. Q says that this information is new. Cad knows a god is killing people outside the sanctuary, so they must go investigate. But there's likely only one reason for this. They are witnessing a sign of the Ascension ritual taking place on the beach. Katie says she's never seen a temple this big, and while gods sometimes move their homes during rituals, this doesn't seem to fit the story. But to leave a mark this big, the god must be one everyone knows, and now they just have to find out who it is. It's odd that anyone survived the arrival of such a powerful being, especially a child, and even Dale finds what he's seeing strange. Our hero points out that the ritual's mark is far too large since only his parents were involved, while Q explains that memory issues like this are normal for anyone who has survived such a trauma. The young scientist stepped up to give a report, tying up all the clues we've heard, and declared that our hero must be suffering from a strange memory glitch. Though it seems like they have everything they need to go back, Dale won't agree because he remembers every single thing that happened. But just as he is about to finish his words, something strikes him. The protagonist falls as a bullet pierces him, and Caddy quickly pulls out her knife. 2 shooters in white claim they only meant to fire a warning shot, but they missed and accidentally hit one of their own men right in the chest. With relaxed gestures, the shooters signal for the group to come closer, promising no more bullets, while Q wonders what his sister will do with the believers. Katie grumbled that she was already fed up with having no ride and walking 20 kilometers back to base, so maybe she should just pray for a miracle. One of the shooters notices the girl looks weird and thinks she might be angry since her boyfriend just died. The shooters tell the group to hurry, and while they talk, Kate takes off running, with one of the taller shooters muttering about people from outside the sanctuary. Just as he was struck, the girl suddenly appeared right in front of him. Before he could even move, she lunged forward with her sharp blade. The other one tells her to stay still, or he'll fire his gun. Caddy asks her partner how to handle the guys, noting that their boss said not to kill the believers. The one with the gun warns that if she keeps pretending, she'll be joining her boyfriend. In that split second, Dale, standing right behind the shooter, lets Caddy decide what to do with her victim. Suddenly scared, the man fires his gun aimlessly and shouts that the hero is a monster. As bullets fly, Dale shouts that if he's the monster, then the hunter is worse, so he pleads to stop. Our hero questions why he should spare a man like him, only to learn that the man has a wife and children waiting for him. Dale was caught off guard, and the man claimed he never had any choice at all. The believer says God told him that if he doesn't bring a sacrifice by next week, his own family will be the one sacrificed. The man asks if the protagonist is an unbeliever, and if he is spared, he vows to become one too. Before the man can finish speaking, bullets fly and he falls. Q pulled the trigger because he found the whole thing disgusting, and the white panels on the neck showed how many offerings were made to their god, marking it as the symbol of the southern sanctuary. Plus, priests from the south can't marry or have kids, so everything he said was a lie. Then Q flings open the truck cargo doors to reveal the true faces of those who live in the sanctuaries. A ragtag group of battered folks hangs onto the back of the truck. Kadi claims the order was just to leave the believers alone, but Q argues that since the man is a priest, sparing him instead is a smart move because he'll be useful for questioning later. As the priest weeps in gratitude, the scientist whispers that they can get rid of him later. It looks like this final part has the priest completely taken by surprise. Now the truck drives back to the base without any trouble. Caddy and Dale watched a mother holding her baby. She feeds him with a quiet calm. The protagonist stared at her with a heart-aching look. Caddy insists that every story begins with family. No matter if it's being sold, hunted, or anything else, it all comes down to family. Most of those who refuse to believe in the gods turned to violence after their family was taken by them. Captain Walter lost his wife, but for Hannah, it was her sister, and Dale was just trying to figure out who actually lost. He's curious if she's here for the same family reasons he is. Then she says it's no different, for she has another brother. Caddy remembers the day she was hurt, when a man covered in blood stood among the bodies and looked right at her. She loved her brother the best of all. As his last warning, he says it would be best if they never met again. Cathy whispers that when their paths finally cross, her destiny will be set, and she will be the one to take his life. Dale is totally lost as the conversation takes a wild turn. Standing in the middle of a crater in the north, someone admits they never saw these events coming. You can no longer read the shifting patterns written in the drifting sands. The priestess whispers to the all-knowing lady that the three great gods are reaching out to her. Then the woman flicks a candle to life. Suddenly, the smoke twisted and shaped itself into the forms of the three gods. The one in the middle waves hello to the all-knowing one and asks how her journey is going. She claims the gods have kept her safe, but the eldest one questions if the all-knowing goddess is ignoring her duty on this journey and demands to know where the rest of the prophecy is. The woman says she was just about to tell them exactly that since the prophecy is over, and she thanks the gods for letting the predictions come true. That news seems to shake the three gods to their very core. The tiniest voice claimed this news breaks her promise, while the all-knowing one said the prophecy would end when the great Lord returns. Yet the woman argued that the gods broke their word first and warned them never to move the central temple servers. The all-knowing one whispers that the gods must have been scared. The middle god tells the woman that she doesn't want the Almighty back, which angers the other two gods and makes them see her as just another victim stuck in the sanctuary's well. Just as things start to get too dangerous, the all-knowing one shares some good news. The great god is hunting for someone to take over his powers. So the very last thing he needs for his climb gets handed straight to the god. Even though the prophecies are done, she can still see the future and saw that one of the three would gain the true god's power to defeat evil with justice, bringing glory that will last forever. The meeting at the crater is finally done. The prophecy is done, and the three gods are about to go their separate ways. Then, the all-knowing one tells his helper to find the void's relics, and sends the perfect location while warning that the object is racing through the sky. With so many moving parts, no prophecy can ever be true. So the only way forward is to steer through every possible outcome, because the wind still favors us, and we must not slacken our grip, for even a tiny flutter of a fly's wings can ripple out to become a powerful gust. By controlling it, the gust turns back from a headwind into a helpful breeze. The all-seeing one smashes the tiny fly without any pity. So she insists that every single roll matters a lot. The seer remarks that it's been a long time since last time, noting that Blair, the one with sacred blood, is here as the 13th deity descending. One god owns the main sanctuary, 3 rule the regions, 9 watch the small shrines, and the world is mostly run by expanding temples, so the goal is to destroy every sanctuary and free humanity. Our hero tells us that Bar-Eric is already gone, leaving only 12 deities standing to be defeated. Walter explained that since the eliminated hunter was already counted in the group of 13, they need to recruit more people to strengthen their god-hunting squad before heading out to the northern base for their first mission. The 3 of them are already buzzing with excitement. Walter says the signal from the site went dead, likely because the sanctuary is growing and changing the land around it. Our mission has 2 goals. First, we must find out what secrets the strange temple holds. The next task is to take the base serum and bring it all the way to the northern base. Caddy grasped every detail. Yet she was left wondering if the group she had chosen was truly the right one. Obviously, Dale has to go because he is essential. It's clear Q must deliver the serum, and the boy really liked his sister calling him important. Now Hannah doesn't get why Simon and her have to leave, since they used to be officers who should stay at the base. and she points out that she's no longer a captain and he isn't a unit leader anymore. But it's a whole lot harder for Caddy. Now, they were no good at all, and the former leader threatened the girl because she had spoken back to him. But the girl isn't having it and wants to know if she's being threatened, so Simon quickly changes the subject. Hannah insists that without Simon, the mission will fail, meaning he is the one holding everything together, even though Unit doesn't realize it yet. And the real secret to getting this done is simply who's driving. Hannah gently tells her friend not to feel too down. She says the mission hinges on the driver, plus the elders are waiting at the destination. So what if there's a reward? Simon asks what they can offer him, and the ex-commander suggests giving him a seat on the council. The leader's mind buzzes with endless new ideas. Simon even pictures himself standing there to tell the elders his story. Standing before the empty council, he faces his toughest challenge, how to handle the wild and dangerous Caddy. Hannah knows she has the driver. The ex-commander asks Hugh if they can see the sanctuary yet. The scientist claims the map shows they've reached the temple, yet for some reason, it still hides from their view. Hannah thinks there's something hidden there, but the thick dust makes it hard to see what it is. Caddy asks what's wrong, and Q replies that they were meant to be at the sanctuary, but there's nothing around. Dale turned to his partner and asked if she still remembered what the old man had said. Walter explains that for the gods, sanctuaries act like fences. It's like a field where their followers are gathered up to be sacrificed. The hero wonders if there are any temples where no gods dwell. The leader warns that while a truly insane god likely doesn't exist, if one does, they'd be wise to pray they never cross his path. The group stands frozen, trying to make sense of what they are staring at. A huge, evil shadow looms on the horizon, and Hannah knows a hunter is patiently waiting to set his trap. A drop of water taps Simon right on the nose. He wipes his face without knowing what he is doing. Then he lifts his eyes to catch the thing that dropped it. Bodies float in the sky, drenched in blood that turns the rain red. The huge red thing sees you as the ones who leave the living world to walk the dark path. The entity sneers at them as fools and snaps the person he was holding right in two with his fingers. The entire group never expected to meet a god so soon, for the Divine One sees them only as sinners whose corruption has poisoned the world. As the fallen bodies hit the ground, the god declares that his mission is to cut away evil right at its root. Some say that people who don't believe and who do wrong are like sicknesses that hurt everyone around them. Dale asks the group to follow him and his partner. The hero wonders why he shouldn't stand right up and fight the god. Walter warns that if they do that, they'll never get the information they need. First, you must get close to a follower to learn about the place's god, which lets you use your demon's power much better. But if gods exist without followers, the only way to learn about them is to fight, which means going in unprepared could lead to defeat. The blood god offers the Infibbles one final chance to turn away from their sins. All they have to do is lay down their flesh and become part of the divine. This is the group's final chance to fall to their knees, accept God's forgiveness, and feast on the flesh and blood he offers to save them. Dale stares in shock at the sheer bad luck of meeting a god with no followers, only to find themselves surrounded by powerful monsters and the innocent ones in danger of getting hurt in the fight, leaving him completely stuck not knowing what to do. Dale wonders which demon to call, but an attack suddenly rushes toward him. Caddy saves her partner just in time, but before he can explain that he is thinking about how to fight while protecting the weak, she tells him that no one in their group is quite like that. She tells the hero that he's underestimating the whole group. Except for the little ones and the old, everyone else is a fighter. Siamese engineers are experts in every kind of weapon. Hannah asks the scientist to unlock the suppressor since they fought side by side through so many battles. The Xer tells Dale and Catty to head inside the sanctuary and gather every scrap of information they can before they leave. Our hero asks Hannah how she'll escape the sanctuary once we're gone. Right then, Q shouts that everything is set. As her hand changes shape, she declares she will make a way to get out. Hannah tells Simon to keep an eye on the car while she goes to grab one of the specimens. Dylan is stunned to learn his friend is a robot, but Cotty explains that while the body is a machine, the brain inside is actually human. She doesn't know the whole truth, but a god was the one who changed her body. Hannah unleashes a massive lightning strike that wipes the entire field clean thanks to the exterminator. Caddy questions if the protagonist truly believes someone can become a leader just by playing rock, paper, scissors. Hannah promises her battery will hold up during the fight, but she's leaving right now. In a flash, the team scrambles into the truck and speeds away. Suddenly, a strange red thing stuck to Dale's arm. The protagonist whispers to his partner that the strange things are still moving, but Caddy thinks they're just pieces of people. Dale says they don't seem to have a mind, and there don't appear to be many of them around. Just then, the hero had a sudden idea. Caddy asks what her partner found, but our hero says he isn't sure yet, and if it works, it will be amazing. The hunt is finally beginning. Q says the creature has a very strange body. It isn't a plant or an animal, but a single-celled specimen that powers itself with its own hidden energy. Hannah asks what he meant, then turns to Gale to see if he found anything, and our hero admits he just has a hunch. She held her breath, wondering if the creature had finally stopped moving. Q confirms the monster has gone silent since we left the sanctuary, is made of a single cell, yet doesn't know what that means, so Dale simply calls it a god. Hannah wants to know what our hero meant, and he corrects her by explaining that this body is actually part of the god, just like the gold statues he saw in the temple that didn't look impressive at first. It turned out that while Bar Eric was drinking souls, his body was changing too. The gods don't just eat spirits, they also feast on our human bodies. Put simply, this isn't a separate thing. If the whole holy place is just one piece of the god, then maybe taking it won't be so hard. Walter tells the group that if they ever have to face the being head-on, they must first push the god out. The biggest problem for these creatures is that their magic only works inside the safe zone. But for that to come to pass, a few things must first happen. Remember, the very first piece of advice is to just wait. The god of this place split his body into many smaller incarnations. Dale wonders what would happen if they were blown up, noting that the demons with this power are numbered 0, 8, and 16. When the strength of two demons merged into a single, terrifying force, just imagine how unstoppable they would become. Dale warns that they have only one shot, so Yi and Hig are called forward to fight. Both god hunters leap into battle, knowing Caddy's partner must get close to the main body for his strike to hit home. The hunter steps forward to face a minion head-on, but there are too many of them blocking the way. First, she zeroes in on taking out those pawns just like she planned. She wipes them out one by one with ease, striking with such force that the enemy can't even move. The first wave crashes down, leaving only scraps falling from the sky. Unfortunately, she still has a lot to deal with, so maybe Caddy can use the power of the annex to clear a path for her. She remembers her partner warning her never to use more than one power at once, because if she does, she must run. The trouble is she just doesn't have the strength to do it. Caddy also remembers everyone mocking her for wanting to run, calling her weak and a coward, and that painful memory gives her the strength she needs. She will never be that person again. Caddy promised herself she would never turn and run from anyone ever again. So, she turns around to strike again. The hunter hurls her blade with such power that it carves a bloody path straight through the army of flesh. Caddy finally got what she wanted, so now she's ready to grab the chance while it's still there. Even with the danger clear before her, she still calls the demon geyser to life. Just as she touches the main body, two creatures rush toward her. In a flash, the pair is knocked down, Kati tells her partner the way is open, and Dale thanks his friend from the air. Now that everything is set, it's time to make the plan happen. The leader slams a manual onto the table and orders the two partners to memorize it. Walter shows us this list of every demon power they could possibly use. Caddy and the captain started fighting because she didn't want to study and was too lazy. Right then, Dale spots a move that can hit several foes at once. Higgs is a demon who can twist gravity to his will. But Geyser can control how much matter moves. By using gravity to make the enemies heavy, the mass control power lets the demons work together to crush them instantly. But there was also a warning about using this fighting trick. Hig's eyes appear in the protagonist's hand while all the red figures gather, and at one moment, Kai drives her blade deep into the ground. As the enemy gets dragged into a spinning black hole, the girl holds her ground against the pole, while above them, a massive sphere of living flesh begins to take shape in the sky. This is the moment Dale gives the signal to his partner. Caddy Gun pushes her limits to bring forth the geyser. Right then, she felt herself suddenly getting heavier. As the last few creatures get squashed flat, the giant ball of bodies starts to squeeze down even tighter. Dale turns to the leader and asks if the warning is real. Walter warns that if you overload a heavy, gravity-powered attack, it will hurt your own team because the crushing pressure starts at the enemy's core and only gets worse the more you use it. As things get hotter, the heat keeps climbing until it hits a breaking point. Just then, a massive explosion erupts as Dale leaps toward Caddy and calls forth another demon. That's when the big boom finally goes off. The blood god stares at the flames until his face melts away from the blast, leaving only his skeleton, while a giant hand shields the heroes from the heat. The blast was so powerful that the protection couldn't hold it back. The shock wave hits Dale, and it begins to change him as well. Caddy dives into the chaos of flying bodies to reach her partner. Just then, they hear a voice laughing at what they're trying to do. The god declares that all they can do is blow up the sanctuary to force their kin out. The sky beast asks the true god, the scourge of the new world, what troubles him. Then suddenly the giant rushes toward the humans. The sky voice asks why he was given power over blood and life, and if it's for the tiny creatures he is staring at, which makes Dale stop and listen closely. The god is about to tell the humans something amazing. His blood is busy making thousands of new cells for him to use every single second. Whenever the body spots a foreign invader, it rushes to fight back by multiplying its white blood cells up to 10 times their usual number. Dale shoves his partner aside, just in time to stop the disaster. At first, the new monsters look all wrong. These new creatures look like they've got a lot more power than before. It's scary that you can make these things over and over, but maybe there's still hope. Except the protagonist Han reacted strangely by getting hurt, showing that the final attack wasn't normal. In a split second, blood pours over Gale's body. Caddy is helpless against her friend, while the god declares humanity is sickness and rushes off to finish his mission. Everyone who refuses to believe must be put to rest forever. Dale thinks the Celestials' talk is nonsense, and he believes salvation isn't about stealing people's souls and turning them into puppets. For the god, healing only comes through the pain the body feels. The true heart of life isn't the body you leave behind, but the spirit that keeps singing forever. The god keeps preaching that salvation comes from pain, flesh, and blood, but the hero cuts him off with a furious scream, shouting through the crowd that these gods are the world's plagues and must be wiped out. Before he can even finish, he gets gulped down by a mouth full of flesh. The heart-shaped blood god demands that Dale keep his promise to destroy everyone, and for a brief second, nothing moves where Dale stands. Caddy watches closely while Ko wonders if he should pull the trigger on the bomb inside the hero's heart. Hannah is scared it's too soon, but suddenly something happens. As something weird starts to take shape, Mokes is called in. Caddy knew something was off right then. Even the god himself sees that everything is shaking with fear. Hannah's helpers panic, thinking it's a quake, but she knows the truth. The ancient demon Mokes, the flesh-eating Calamity King, has finally arrived to swallow the gods, and even the mighty El looks tiny against this giant monster. With its huge tail, the evil beast smashes the hero. Then Molax demands to know who dared call him by name, only for the hero to admit he summoned him for his power, leading Dale to ask for a deal with the giant worm just as the tail strikes him once more. Suddenly, the hero is squashed flat. Molax can't believe anyone would even bother asking him to sign a contract. Dale shares what he knows about the demon. He learned that Molax, the rebirth of a long-forgotten god, craves endless power by eating ancient corpses, but the hero knows it won't make him strong, and while Molax sneers that humans are ignorant, Dale vows to feed him, leaving the room in a heavy silence. The protagonist promises the demon he will hunt the gods coming down to Earth, then gives his own strength to the giant worm. Mokes confesses that this human lacks a normal soul, so he wonders who the hero really is. Dale bares his chest to the demon. Then he tells the story of the deal he struck with the Void's owner. The human opens his body like a waiting cup, not for the dead, but to hold the living gods. First, it is his hand that longs to change. The legs appear just a moment later. The deal is that you can tear them apart whenever you want and hunt freely. Kadi is seeing something that has never happened before. She realizes this is a demon taking over. Even the gods are baffled by what they are seeing. The flying figure wonders if the giant is the true form of the living god. The demon declares he will steal their life force, and the scene shifts back to when the group was getting ready to start their journey. Walter picked up the phone and called Caddy to have a chat. The leader warns the girl to watch out for trouble. The hunter claims they can finally defeat the gods, so why should she still be afraid? Walter warns that they must be careful because for Dale to beat the gods, he has to be possessed. Caddy doesn't get it all, because being possessed isn't the same as tapping into special powers. You give your body directly to a demon, but remember that the spawn of hell hate the gods and aren't necessarily friends to humans either. Mokes shapes a spell between his hands. He commands the living god to spit out every bit of his power, and his army obeys. Even a god tries to refuse the monster's order, but fails, and soon lets go of everything too. Kati senses the air has turned poisonous, and knows she is in danger too. With no other choice, the hunter bolts away from the fight. But halfway through, something grabs her eye. In the middle of the desert, a strange portal appeared. It's too late. Kati feels her stomach turn as the poison she breathed in takes hold. But she knows she can't fall, not in that place. Just as the clock strikes midnight, a mysterious figure jumps out and slips a mask onto her face, allowing Hannah and Caddy to soar away into the night. Even the old captain couldn't guess how terrible the possession would be, since there was no sign of Dale left in that body. Mokes was surprised to find this body much better than he had hoped. Now the god is sure he is facing a new kind of plague, admitting he was wrong because what he thought was just a sickness is actually rotting flesh that can no longer be saved. Molax chuckled at the words he had chosen. The demon feels that God is right in his own way. The divine voice declares that the only cure for his enemy is to cut out the rot and cast it away. And the instant those words fade, the giant strikes with blood-soaked webs shooting toward the demon, who looks almost unbothered. But the old living things that were just single cells seem to be guarding their brand new owner. Then those monsters burst apart into a million tiny fragments. Even God can't figure out why his own family turned on him. Molax stands surrounded by his new slaves, laughing that if he truly is the god they want back, he'll make sure he returns them. Without a sound, the demon signals for the attack to begin. A massive wave crashes into the god, and not far away, someone watches it all unfold. A drone captures the fight from far away. Simon shouts wildly for Dale to win, and Q scrambles to find a spot to watch the action. Just as you were in trouble, Hannah popped up out of nowhere to ask for help. She cries out for a cure, desperate to stop the poison. He wonders if the god caused Cathy to get hurt. As Hannah gives the shot and explains that the demon struck Cathy, everyone is left baffled as to why Dale would be involved. The former leader warns that it was the demon, not her partner, and they must be careful of him as well. Simon says the fight is over, but Hannah thinks it ended too fast, and the real worry is that Dale hasn't changed back to normal yet, while Huey reminds us that the captain said giving power to the demon is what makes the possession stop. But since the contract is still active, something must be wrong because Cotton wakes up and realizes that isn't the real him. She still remembers spotting a weird gate hidden inside that holy place. Besides that, she noticed other versions of herself standing guard at the gate, which wouldn't make sense if they were fighting against her true self. A true god would never carve a creature that looks just like himself. Mokes declares that this isn't enough, but as the demon gazes upon the huge corpse, he realizes the monster wasn't him. Kadi explains that Shur is a distinct form of the divine. From within the glowing portal, Molax hears a voice calling his name. The voice declares that the demon will never be able to defeat him, and then the gates finally swing wide open. A voice inside his head insists that his mission is to save humanity. But what about the demon, and why does he fight? The god declares that fighting is pointless because he is the sacred blood, while his enemy is just a disease, so humanity will never be defeated by him. The god of blood stands up from his throne and sees that his enemy has changed, not just in look, but in everything. He wonders if that demon is the very weapon powerful enough to slay the gods. The Divine One realizes that the trick is actually possessed. To the god of blood, it looks pathetic when humans of no faith chain a hellish creature to do their dirty work. Mokes moves his hand just a little, and his power instantly tears up the entire organic floor. Hanging from the ceiling, the divine being sees the demon's plan to steal its power and decides to hand that power right to the creature. But first, he needs to get his hands on the void artifact. The crowd watches in awe, wondering how the god knows about the weapon. Hannah is pretty close with her guess. That is why the northern outpost went silent. She recalls the idea that the gods might just be ordinary people. Walter set the strange object down on the table and admitted he had been right all along. This thing is just as strange as the void artifact. The gods are like Dale, just humans borrowing power from another world, and Blair Yin is a name feared by everyone who doesn't believe. Blair Yin, the saintly leader who once saved countless lives among the northern unbelievers, somehow became a god. The all-knowing one says the gods are trying to save us. Blair is furious at the woman for speaking so carelessly after so many lives were taken by gods. But then a crushing pain knocks the base leader to the ground. It looks like a sharp shard of Riv is tearing through the man's heart. But luckily, she has a spare one to use, and the all-knowing friend gives Blair a chance to move forward, promising that the Master of Infinity has already planned everything so that ignorance won't be punished, only the silly mistakes born from not knowing the truth. The all-knowing one gave the man a seat right next to God. He isn't just trying to heal the people, but to save the whole of humanity by taking the demon's heart to carry out God's plan. As the divinity drags on with his endless speech, Mokes finally loses his temper and slips behind his opponent. Blair didn't even notice that he was completely trapped by a wall of claws. The tips lure him in so the demon can drain his power. Molax's tears open his chest to reach the power of blood and life inside, while Blair tries to explain that the demon entering the room means he cannot be defeated anymore, because the temple lives inside his stomach. A giant hand bursts from the god's back and pierces Mokes, causing the demon's body to explode. The creepy monster crawls along the floor, unharmed because for Mokes, Being inside a god's stomach is the ultimate thrill. The beast spits out a cloud of dark energy, but Blair blocks it, only to realize it was a trick to draw him out. Mokes plunges forward with everything he has to strike the god. The demon will smash open the way to the heart. The divinity uses his magic to push away the next attack, while Blair gathers energy at his fist to form a spear that pins the creature in place. The energy tries to destroy the creature's body, but Molax grabs the attack and pulls its power away. Two super beings rush toward each other at lightning speed and crash together, their power perfectly balanced. The demon and the god lock eyes in a tense standoff. Molax laughs at being eaten, but the monster keeps hunting. The demon swears he'll save Blair's soul if he gives up, but the blood god's grin returns, showing he knows digestion takes its own sweet time. Hundreds of hands grip the demon, as Blair warns that if he truly wants to hunt, he never should have stepped into the prey's mouth. Because of this silly mistake, the gods think he has already won the battle. Blair stands ready like a surgeon about to start the big operation to take out the heart, but suddenly everything starts to go wrong. Mokes calls the god a fool for turning this room into his inside. Blair shivers as he recalls the first strike, terrified of the poison the beast injected into him. In the end, the blood god was always the one being hunted. From the very beginning, there was no fight, and with that, Mokes slipped free from his grasp easily, proving that even a hunted target can fight back. Otherwise, there would be no fun, because the creature had injected a deadly sickness into his body that could destroy the world. Put simply, it's a hellish sickness that forces the rotting of death to happen while you're still alive. As the swelling spreads, the whole body puffs up. In the next stage, the fat melts and flows out through every opening. Now, during the decomposition phase, the flesh slowly melts away. During the discoloration stage, only the pale and blue patches of skin are left standing. The decaying god is skewered on a spike, and the artifact slides free from the very tip of its tail. As promised, Molax will step away and let Blair's soul face its final moments all by itself, with no one around to get in the way. Finally, the demon crumbles into dust. Still awake, Blair spots a car moving. As his last breath leaves him, the fallen god whispers an apology to the Master of Infinity for never finishing his quest. But he got the most important thing done. No one inside the car realizes that a piece of the divine being is still alive. Blair gives thanks for the chance to send a little piece of himself into the new world waiting to be born. His seed is tough enough to get into the tank, where it meets another lump of flesh. Combat Agent Miles, a 37-year-old soldier. Another agent from a northern base, a 23-year-old named Elena. Another one found, Araf, 52 years old. Among the crowd, 1,387 other faces were recognized. All the unbelievers from a northern base were sacrificed in the region's god's ritual, and once the divinity was identified, Walter erupted in rage at the shocking truth, leaving the leader utterly broken and unable to believe his childhood friend could do such a terrible thing. But the big mystery is still what really happened. 15 years ago, Blair stood before class and described life as a simple yet efficient machine, crafted by billions of years of chance using the tools of probability. But what if a program could turn this complicated, messy production into something that feels real and alive? Some say religion calls this the soul, for it is the spirit that guides the machine. The choice between hailing a taxi or waiting for a bus whispers exactly who you are. We decided to listen to what the religious leader had to say. And there it is, the algorithm that turns raw data into the sights, sounds, and feelings of a living world. Then the brain reads these signals, and in this way, we live our lives guided by this hidden algorithm. To this man, the very idea of a soul is nothing more than a myth. But it looks like someone in the room disagrees, so the professor instantly shouts at the student who spoke, even though he didn't mean to be heard. Trapped with no other option, the student pulls out his phone to show that the rumors were finally true. The anchor says a source recently confirmed that unethical tests to prove the soul existed were uncovered in the East. A regional rep finally admitted the rumors were true. The man said they figured out that the human brain holds the soul, and then the scientist added that they weren't doing this just to learn more. Blair sees young Walter on the news and realizes who he is. Later that night in the city, the two friends sit in a bar with Blair, who can't stop believing what they just found, while Walter tries to forget the humiliation the young scientist faced at the lecture, which is a nightmare for Blair, but hardly felt like a disaster for Walter. Still unsure, the young professor wonders if what they found is a real soul or just something the lab named one. Walter admits that things just don't make sense, and he didn't even realize it until recently. The scientist passes the proof to his friend and mentions the company's plans, leaving Blair even more amazed that there is finally solid evidence. This is the two-ball experiment where a particle fired into empty space will eventually strike one of two buttons. Randomly activated buttons weld one of the balls. The odds are always half and half, a perfect coin toss in the end. Then the prediction game began with an observer watching, but the crowd was split in two, with one group told the ball would drop to the right. Even though nothing actually changed, the data showed that people who thought the ball would land on the other side somehow made the success rate jump to 52%. As more people joined in, the distance between them kept getting wider and wider. The way people believe shapes their future, because that first spark the brain lights up when choosing is really just your free will at work. Blair recalls that 3 years ago his friend handed him a strange book, and now that mystery hangs in the air alongside the question of which company runs these experiments, since even Walter has no idea what his bosses plan to do with the secrets they've found. Blair asks if his partner's wife is still the president of the East, but the scientist jokes that they aren't together because she's traveling for work and he misses her so much that his friend nearly has a heart attack. Walter tells him to go and pays the bill. When Blair looks at the family photo and finally understands, he wonders if the whole thing is about Walter's daughter. This wild tale of souls and silly experiments only makes him think the spirit is still alive, but the scientist insists the truth is exactly the opposite. After visiting his deceased daughter, Walter met a man who said death isn't the end, but the start of new growth, proving that Anna finished her own journey and now must be honored, while Blair's friend reveals his wife has traveled far away. She traveled all the way to the moon. It turns out her business trip took her much farther than anyone expected. The wealthy live on a completely different level. But if you take a closer look, you'll spot a crack on the moon. Blair finally spots it for the first time. That scar on the moon is still there today. That is the last thing his dry body will ever see. A woman was sent to investigate and found that Blair was trapped in a state between life and death. Now she calls upon the great and all-seeing God to give the punishment or reward. The moon turns into a giant, to judge the Lord of sacred blood, and it watches Blair's soul. Even though he was still young, the doctor promised to spend his whole life saving people. Later, the same man returns, breaking his promise and holding a weapon. Walter shakes his partner awake to rush them to the plane, but Blair insists on staying to help the woman who is still holding her living child. With precious moments left, they sprint forward, clutching the baby tightly to their hearts. With humanity on the brink of extinction, Blair threw his oath aside and fought only to survive, yet something deep inside him still pulled him to save that child. Inside the cramped plane, breathless and nearly left behind, Walter asks about the baby. In that very moment, even Blair is left speechless, unable to find the right words to answer the question. The plane flew away from the dangerous war zone. Suddenly, a huge boom tears the remaining buildings apart. 5 years later, at the Northern Unbelievers base, the war had ended and the world they knew was just a distant memory. This broken world has been given over to the gods. A man stepped forward to call out to the commander. It looks like a patient is in desperate need of him right now. Blair can't stop asking himself the same question over and over. Why does he keep saving lives? A woman stands outside, waiting patiently for the operation to be over. Is he fighting for all of us, or just because it feels right? She wonders if her husband will make it through. The doctor breaks the news that she's going to be okay. She nearly bursts into tears when she finds out everything turned out perfectly. If Blair had known it would end up this way, he would have chosen to study surgery instead. But the truth is, this man doesn't believe in cause and effect. His son reaches out to grab his hand, pulling his gaze back to him. Blair warns the child not to call him father, or he will never be able to get married. The doctor scolded the boy for showing up in the surgery room, even though he'd already said no, but the kid just wanted to give his dad the chocolate cookie he'd baked. Navi remembered the reason he fights to save lives. Because of this boy, he can only hug him, knowing that in this world, life is just a tiny spark in a raging storm. All he wants to do is hold him tight with his hands until the storm is finally over. He wished his tiny spark could glow just a bit longer, but sadly, it faded too soon. Blair feels terrible because he couldn't keep him safe. It looks like the folks from the sanctuary are snatching up every child they meet and ending their lives. It looks like the kids had slipped out of the base. Blair is too weak to talk, so the leader says the boy is his son and admits he couldn't protect him, wondering if dying is just the price we pay for being alive. If Walter can just look at this and call it the greatest gift of life, then even the all-knowing one admits death can be beaten, and the true God has sent Blair on a mission to cure the deadly plague haunting this land. Using his own life force, he will pull off this miracle. Blair will soon have the power to bring his lost subordinates back to life, even his own son. Everyone will wake up to rise again across the sacred fields. So, every soul gets to live forever. Blair gets hooked on the idea of living forever. He remembers Walter saying that death is life's perfect partner, where one makes the other even more special. The doctor simply cannot bring himself to believe that death is a natural thing. But he'd rather be destroyed and end his life as a human than join the race of these crazy people. Lar promises something in the name of his son. He vows never to let them harm his child, though the all-knowing one says he only speaks so because he knows nothing about eternal joy, while Lar tells the woman to shut up and stop her nonsense. She believes that not knowing things isn't wrong, but being born without wisdom and staying that way is a terrible mistake, especially since the vessel they found is still dirty inside. Even though he's the only one picked to hold this power, she asks the other woman to let him see a bit of the truth. The woman moves with a divine spark of magic that sends waves of sharp pain through Blair. The doctor is crushed by the terrible impact. After asking once more, she hands him the chance to wield the power of blood and life. He accepts the heart, even though he doesn't really understand why. The seer says this is a gift from God once again. The watcher who sees all whispers a brand new secret to Blair. Right now, a tear rolls down the dying man's eye. A heavy feeling of regret settles deep inside his heart. He stands there wondering what terrible mistake he just made. The woman warned that choosing to live in the dark was a terrible sin. Asking a demon how he lost his powers was useless, for it was whispered that Blair's punishment was made human suffering, yet he still managed to finish his important mission. The girl slaps her palms together, and suddenly a burst of blood sprays out between them. Now that he is washed clean and free from sin, they hope to meet him again in the illusion fields. Trisha stands alone clutching a stained cloth, waiting for someone who is running late to finally arrive. She tells the man that he must never be late or early for the Creator's plans, because there is no room for any more variables. The first ally of the Northern Sanctuary, Cyan, doesn't seem to care at all. The guest then asks the girl if she called him to confess. Trisha says that Celian is a funny comedian. She tells him to head to the enemy's northern base, saying it will be a special gift for him. Celian looks uneasy and wonders if something has gone wrong with the Almighty's plans. This place was meant to be the new god's safe haven, but it looks like it will end up sharing the same terrible fate as Bar-Eric. Trisha wonders if he doubts God's plan, but Celian explains that his worry isn't about faith, since two powerful beings have already fallen. If the great God's plan is to defeat the others, Trisha won't let herself doubt it. The girl snaps her fingers to unleash her magic, knowing that doubt is a deadly sin. A swift slash nearly strikes the entity, splitting the building in half. Silly thinks this harsh reply is unfair for such a simple question, wondering if the great God intends to make up for the other god's loss. Suddenly, two people rush in to guard their lord. Trisha finds another hilarious joke and decides to write it down. It looks like these two are still very close to their master, the second affiliate run, and the third Nadira. Trisha says the Omniscience's plans are what the true God wants. That's all he needed to hear, and now she's walking away. Silly questions why he needs to head to the northern base. She tells him he'll only find the truth when he arrives. But that is exactly what he has been searching for all along, because for God's plan to happen, he must be there. Trisha really hopes that he loves the gift she gave him. Nadara keeps goading the girl into a fight, but Rin snaps that she should have done that while she was still here. Stillian felt the whole talk was weird, and his partner hated the other woman, while Trisha, a servant of the great creator, stayed silent. The god asks if his friends from the last attack killed the orbit, and they apologize, while Rin says he felt like he was stabbing something he couldn't reach. Stillian admitted that what mattered most, her strike felt like nothing but empty air, yet it was a force so strong that even he couldn't stop it, coming from someone who was neither a god nor a demon, making the question of who this Trisha really was impossible to ignore. Nadura doesn't care who the Lamitic really is, because right now all that matters is that they are about to open some presents. Stillian recalls the servant's words, remembering she handed over exactly what he had searched for so long. Right then, the god seemed to finally get what she meant. The group finally reaches the mouth of the cave. Simon asked a question about a base that was rebuilt deep inside a mine. And this spot is the one most well-known among those who do not believe. This is where the northern lands call home. He thought the place would still be in one piece, but it's completely empty now. Cody felt like he had walked these same steps before. First, Hannah tells Simon to find a room for Dale to rest, and then Cuddy needs to look for a store with serum samples. She and Q will head to the control room to tell the eastern base what just happened. At the back of the enemy captain's office, a soldier shouts that someone from the east is trying to reach them. Hannah urges the leader to get ready for her big news, but Walter remains unshaken, claiming that after his last report, nothing can shake him. The group leader is confused about which report they're discussing, so Walter steps in to tell the whole story of the mission, even though the commander only knows about it because of Hannah. And the big problem is that Hannah never sent any report at all. Even though it's shocking, everything they said is real. Looking back, the northern base sent its report on the very day the ritual took place. It was the blood god who did it, and Walter insists this wasn't a gift but a warning with two meanings. First, the unbelievers' base is no longer a safe place. The moment the war started, cracks began to spread across the moon's surface. These same cracks point the way to every hidden temple. So they picked the bases far away from the sanctuaries, and now Q thinks it's too risky for the unbelievers to hide everyone in just one spot. As Caddy steps in to urge everyone to stick together now that they can fight back, Hannah worries that the truth about Blair will soon come out. Walter agrees that this could cause total chaos, even leading to surrender and ending the unbelievers' hope. Caddy doesn't care about cowards, because she believes they will finally tell the truth. She asks what the second warning means, and someone replies that defeating those two gods was always part of the plan. Stillian keeps going to say that those who doubt still haven't seen the full picture. The god found Trisha's answer too complicated, but he loved her gift, making it clear this was a love confession. He invites her out if they meet again, and Caddick notices the man standing beside her. Cillian waves hello to his little sister. The old man tapped his cane on the floor and shouted for everyone to pick up their weapons and start the fight. He orders every unborn child to show no mercy. Only the one who wins will ever be given birth. Every promise humans make rests on the power hidden beneath your feet. Take good care of your brother's body. You must swallow your sister's blood. The divine voice tells everyone to celebrate the grand carnival, and the festivities begin as the first year of the victor's rule comes to a close. Celion warns his sister they've gone too far to turn back, because out there is just as dangerous as here, and if they don't act now, they'll both fall, meaning they must survive at any cost. The trouble is that Caddy spent years living and chatting with those kids. As she says that everyone is her friend, her brother cuts her off, reminding her of Celian's warning to stay away from the weak, a lesson Caddy always knew would lead to this outcome. After all, the Northern Sanctuary runs on a simple rule where might makes right, yet even the divine powers stop to watch as something truly strange begins to unfold. These two winners celebrate their big day. Now they belong to the powerful rulers of the Northern Sanctuary. The god tells the Great Father to welcome the new children, give them names, and lend them power. The raw power of violence, as Sven sees it. Celian says it's been ages since he last saw his little sister, yet she's still hanging around the weak. Just as Caddy pushes the injection home, she whispers that they are no longer siblings. Then she calls on Geyser, the one who can balance things out. Soon after, she calls on Anik to lend her strength, and together they turn the tip of the pin into a deadly weapon. In a last-ditch effort to make it work, she hits him again and again while screaming in pure rage, only to suddenly realize the harsh truth. Her strike barely left a mark on him. Celine confesses that Caddy has learned some cool tricks, but she is still too weak, and the pressure to break free is overwhelming. Caddy shouts for Gizzer to come again. Even with all that pressure, Celion stands up and realizes why her father is searching for her. He figured out the powers were coming from the artifact, and that she was losing her hair, while Celan noted that his sister had improved a lot compared to when she used to just run away. Rage fills Kat, and she stops running away from fights. Hannah shouts at the girl to move out of the way. Just as she readies her shot, the group's leader remembers how that man once said they were weak. All the power is rushing into the shot, but her arm is sliced right off. Just as things looked worst, Rain jumps into the fight unnoticed, but the swordsman calls her weak because she took too long to get ready. This was a terrible moment, for Dale's deadly sickle holding a heart bomb grips Celian's right hand, and he suddenly spotted something. He grieves for Rain, knowing the void artifact is hiding somewhere inside the facility. Both women wonder how he could possibly know that. The swordsman has already looked through half the building with nothing to show for it, while Mandura is hunting for answers in the remaining half. Walter is about to shout a command to everyone in the room, but the transmission cuts out just as he begins, while Nadara accidentally steps on something she can't even identify. Right then, her communicator beeps, and she learns straight away about the artifact. As she absorbed more details, she bumped into someone by mistake, and Simon thought the girl was a survivor from the base. Nadira immediately confirms she found the target, and the impressed Celan quickly tells her to grab it. Then he tells his sister they'll go together, and if she says no, he won't hesitate to grab her and drag her along. Caddy dares him to make her do something, and as everyone realizes what she's up to, Q is the first to scream out for her to stop. The girl calls for Shimolo, and while Hannah wonders if she's ever done this before, Q reveals it's her very first time summoning a top-tier demon. It seems even Dale isn't strong enough to handle these creatures. This is the unit's final desperate move, calling forth a wild demon to take over the body when no one else can, and Caddy orders this new Dark Master to kill Seelan. Even her brother can't believe his eyes, because once the summoning is done, the summoner will be dead. Caddy reads that there are 1,024 tiny demons, 256 medium ones, and 108 big ones, but she panics at the sheer number she has to memorize. Dale gives her the